Let's have a look at the new stuff over in Neutron. And I think we'll start with the super nerdy thing, which I have used on the brass on this middle verse here, I think.
Either on beat or a cappella. So when I gotta do it, I'ma do it well. Got D and B, any beat,
Yeah, sweet. So it's the only thing on that channel. When you have brass instruments, you get it on vocals sometimes. Things like a DC offset, you get the waveforms going down more than it's up or up more than it's down. Might not seem to be like an issue, but when that plays back on a big speaker system, it means it either smacks the speaker right out and then only lets it come back part way, or the other way around, it forces it to suck in and it can't push out. It's something to fix if it's happening to an extreme. Now, it's relatively minor on this because it's quite low down in the mix, but since we now have a tool to resolve it, it's quite a useful thing to do. If I switch this off, do I still get the feedback? No. So let's just reset this. Just hold Option and click both of these guys here. So this is the phase module in Neutron 5. And if we play back this bit of brass, we can see there's instances like here where it's pushing up more than it's pulling back. Now this kind of low level shouldn't cause too much of an issue. But if you're really cranking that up, that's going to be quite a bit of movement on the speaker. And if you've got a loud brass section, absolutely would need to fix this. This allows us to do that basically. Now you can just hit the learn function and it will figure out the best configuration for it. So if we just hit learn, play the brass back through it, like so, you can see it going through that. Go. Now I dialed this in differently before, but you can see now that offset for the most part is really under control. Now I think I ended up, I forget what it said. Did I have it like 36? I think that's where I put it to. That's where I found it to be a better position to be in. You can just dial it in visually. It's not something you're really going to be able to hear. Something you'd just like not be nice to know that you've controlled it if you're aware of this kind of thing happening. Now this isn't the only thing that this does phase wise. I just wanted to show that because that is on there. I've also used it to line up the lo-fi break here with the punchy kick. So these two bits here. So if we go over to these two tracks, you can see here I've got two instances of Neutron 5 on here. But we only really need to open up the one. This is the punchy kick, so the second channel down there. And then there's another break running on the top of it. So if I take that away, it's just this. Right? But there's elements of a kick drum still in here. Even though I've filtered it out, you can still hear that bottom end of the break, right? And that lo-fi breaks from another track and it kind of ebbs and flows. Not everything sits exactly where it should. So just dropping the kick drum on those spots or trying to line it up with every bit in the breaks, not really a thing I want to spend my whole day doing. Like zoomed right in here, trying to line up phase that I can't necessarily see. So we can do it in the plugin, which is really nice to have in a channel option basically. So if we change the view here from combined to say sidechain, now we're actually seeing the break because that's why they're sidechain, they're linked into one another here, right? If we switch it to main, now we're seeing the kick. Now if we do main plus sidechain, now we can see the overlay of the two. And you can see there are parts of the kick, especially in the later sections here, where the phase gets a little bit wobbly on it. However, importantly, that kick and punch is really lined up. But I need to remember the rotation here because I want to get it back 68 degrees. But if we put that back to 0, it's by no means bad, but it is not as punchy and sharp as it was. And we can end up having it really quite phasing off like that. Now again, the learn function here understands what you're trying to do. It sees you've got a sidechain coming in and it sees the two signals. It will try and match them up relatively well. I just found that giving it that set rotation without the 9 millisecond of delay was better. That's kind of flamming a bit for me. Tell you what though, it's still done the same rotation that we came to. Now if I take the delay away, that's lining up far, far better. Let's just A/B it real quick. But hopefully there you can hear like the low end phases just a little bit on some of the kicks, not all of them. When we switch it on, it's just consistently punchy rather than sometimes being a bit like a little bit flabby. And then it's just a super nice little tool to have in there to fix those kinds of issues rather than going in and lining up every single sample over, well, hours probably, and then bouncing it out into another break. And there's other tools out there that do this. It's just nice that it's now built straight into Neutron. There's two things. We've gone with the most nerdy thing, which is phase for sure. But I've made use of two of those instances in here with just the one tool rather than what I'd usually have to do.
It's real. I showed you the old school like speak and spell. I was doing too much, feeling overwhelmed, even though I'm a vet.
Ask, will somebody
I was trying to make
just give us a message of some kind in chat?
then I never will.
So I can see that it is still rolling.
Never fail.
It's supposed to be a chatbot sorting things out today, but that doesn't seem to have worked.
Got a fake when I know it's real.
Also, I've got a bunch of like metrics, what down, hang on, that way this time. Be good to see if some of those can update as well, but who knows? I'm new to this whole streaming palaver.
Either on beat or a cappella. So when I gotta do it, I'ma do it well. D&B, any beat, I'ma make it sell.
All right, so what else have we got? There's a clipping module added in now. Where did I utilize that? Over here on the stereo out. So just to be clear, if you've only just joined the stream, this track is a whip. It's a work in progress, by no means finished. I just found it as a good example because I'm actually working on it. I tend to put ozone and limiters and stuff on my stereo out so I can quickly pump it up in level and hear where I'm at kind of mix wise and how that's going to translate. So that's what's going on here. It's not like I've done this to crank it up and I would normally mix into it. It's so I can quickly switch it on and be like, cool, I'm in this kind of ballpark. And in this case, Neutron 5 has added a clipper in. So I wanted to test that out, and that's a sensible place to go and test the clipper in this example. I reckon this is going to come over to Ozone. The way they've done this is really good. So at the minute, if we open Ozone 11, since we've got it here, on their maximizer, you've got a soft clip option just down here, which, sure, great, we can see the percentage that we've put it in. The way it's integrated in here is so much better. So let's have a quick butchers. Let's loop over this bit.
Yeah, I was on it when you weren't involved. You can't treat it like a hobby for a pot of gold. Many want a copy for the same results. Yeah.
So what's great about this, we've now got the threshold option and really detailed feedback, so we can pull it down exactly to where we want it to go. We've then got a boost option, so how much do you want to push into that clipper? You've got the two options basically to ebb and flow into it like you would with a classic clipper, just in a slightly different format with a really nice bit of visual feedback. Cool, great. Millions of clippers do that. It's also multiband, which is the thing that's proper blown me away. So what I can do is put, say, a split in here, and I can have it so the low end is maybe just about touching, right? And take a little bit of those transients out. Top end can be completely different. We've got much harsher transients. Grab those separately. The reason that's powerful and important is, say you've got a big kick that comes through and that wants to be clipped. That's the maximum that you can then reach, right? If you've then got a snare that's just a little bit below, you're only ever going to be clipping off the top of that kick. You can split them apart this way and have it so it's working alternatively. So it will be clipping the snare, but the kick won't be there at that same time. So you're able to get that kind of extra step up if you really needed it in terms of mastering and cranking excessively disgusting loudness out of it. With that said, it's also relatively transparent.
Yeah.
Not the most transparent I've ever heard, but pretty solid.
It's like a hobby for a pot of gold. Many want a copy for the same results. because the shit was all.
Yo, Cold, I'm all good. Thank you for the message in chat so I can see chat is working.
I'm just trying to leave a mark before it's time to go.
How are you, buddy? Is it starting to get sweltering hot there now?
I'ma leave them with a sound just to let them know. Yeah, I was on it when you weren't involved. You can't treat it like a hobby for a pot of gold. Many want.
Right, so you can see we're taking about 4 dB out on the low end here.
Yeah, I was on it when
Say,
involved.
and upper mids.
A hobby for a pot of gold.
And as much as 5 dB out in here, but because they're working on the split of the audio, they're happening at separate times, so we can lift that up a lot more.
Leave a mark before it's time to go.
So this track's already mega loud because of the way I've set it up to monitor. Let's see if we can add 4 dB of gain, which would be a pretty disgusting thing to do on an already loud mix without it falling apart. This might fall apart, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was on it when you weren't involved. You can't treat it like a hobby for a pot of gold. Many want a copy for the same results. Because the shit was always sold and was never told. Never. See, nothing's really set in stone. I'm just trying to leave a mark.
I mean, that's really, really crushed now, but the amount of gain that up's massive, and it still hasn't completely fallen on its arse, which, considering it's not a finished mix, pretty solid. So this Clipper edition is really, really nice touch. I would like to have seen this version of the Clipper in Ozone 11 for sure, but I reckon that will probably come in a future version. Again, useful tool to have built into a very, very versatile channel strip at the end of the day. Now, I don't remember what any of my settings were, but hey, here we are. Let's try and just dial it back in. So it was just tickling it.
You can't treat it like a.
And we were adding, I don't know, like 1.8, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I was on it when you weren't involved. You can't treat it like a hobby for a pot.
Just tickling those tops, wasn't it? Like that.
Because the shit was always sold and was never told. Never.
As well, the Delta feature has been added into this. If you don't know what the Delta feature is, it will play you the difference of what's happening to your tool. So if you've made a change like a clip, for example, we now only hear what's being affected, and this is what's being affected. And that's because of the oversampling as well. A better example of that might be if we just mute that one for a moment. Actually, no, we can EQ in there, for example. So a good example of what a delta does. If we take the equalizer and put a delta on, we hear nothing now, right? So it's not playing anything back because it only plays the difference that that particular tool is adding. So now if I was to put a boost in here, now we hear all of the frequency range and the boost that that particular band of the EQ is doing. Get rid of it, we go back to a null effectively, yeah? Delta shows us exactly the frequency area we're touching, by how much and what we're doing to it. Yeah? That's on every module now, I believe. I'm going to say that relatively confidently.
So when it's time to let it go.
So that's a really useful like A and B tool that's in there as well. I have to say, I think those are the main things that have been added that I picked up on. What else have we done on here? On the brakes. Okay, so we've got some changes to the sculptor. So I've used that on the overall drum brake. And we can have a look at what we're doing with that. The change with the sculptor, working in mid-side mode here. So on the sides, you can see what's going on. It's got a nice visual representation. When the snare smacks in, it pulls the tops down. So the snare becomes like really pointed and right in the middle, especially if you're in headphones. About 4 weeks away from the bullshit heat. Yes, fair one. So you've got like the peak weather right now. Yeah, the A/B, the delta, hearing exactly the change you're making, not just A/Bing and trying to understand it, can be so useful. Okay, same principle works here, right? That's what's happening to the audio. So the sculptor, mids, when everything hits in, it's lifting up the top of that snare, but on the sides, it's pulling back. So basically when the snare hits, it becomes really central, pulls everything down, but just for that moment. You know, it's a really subtle mixing technique, but the difference is quite paramount when you listen A/B. Brings loads of focus into that snare immediately for me. Yeah, hopefully that's obvious, but it might just be because I'm in headphones and have listened to this for hours on end. What else have we got in here? That's currently doing nothing. I mean, what we could do actually on the vocals just here, have a look at how the new intelligence side of things works. So
yeah, I was on it when you weren't involved. Nah. You can't treat it like a hobby for a pot of gold. What? Many want a copy for the same as
cool beans.
Because the shit was always sold and was never.
So carrying on from what they did in the last version, more macro control, but you're now able to do customization over here as well. So whereas it's figured out its voice, it's put it on vocals, it's given us a vocal profile for the overall track, and then we can dial in density, which we'll look at in a sec, the drive and saturation and width if we want, which is nice on the vocal to just be able to pump it in.
Involved. Nah. You can't treat it like a hobby for a pot of gold. What? Many wanna
obviously don't want to do that, but as an effect, it's there.
Sold and was never told. Never. See, nothing's really set in stone. Nope. I'm just trying to leave
that as it is because we've got ad-libs and things to sort that out.
When it's time to let it go.
Tonality for the EQ, so like more EQ, less EQ. Basically, I think we can see roughly what it does here. So you see this nice curve. That's the EQ curve it's decided on for this vocal. If I dial it right back, when we go back over there, oh look, it's effectively the same. What it's done is adjusted the mix over here. I would rather it took these points and it dialed them back in rather than did like a wet dry mix, right? But the controls there, it gives you the option to dial things in quickly. And it's like a misrepresentation of what's going on over here, in my opinion anyway, but that's how it works. What we can do though is put custom in. So say you've worked with this vocalist before, you dialed in an amazing vocal tone that you wanted to pick up from them. You could capture that vocal tone, put it in here and get that same profile. Now I've got Still Dre here, the whole track. That's not ideal, but it will now try and work it out based on that track when we play it back, right?
I was on it when
now we do relearn.
You can't treat it like a hobby for a pot of gold. What? Many want a copy for the same results. Yeah. Because the shit was always sold and was never told. Never. See, nothing's really set in stone. Nope. I'm just trying to leave them up.
Yeah, hear the change?
So when it's time to let it go, I'ma leave them with a sound just to let them know. Yeah.
Which phones you on, Bayer? I don't know what that means, dude. Oh, the headphones. Yes, the Bayer Dynamics. What are they? Pro X model.
Yeah, I was on it when you weren't.
The semi-open ones.
Treat it like a hobby for.
Like you can change between your different profiles, look, and it does it on the fly for you.
Because the shit was always sold and was never told. Never. See, nothing's really set in stone. Nope. I'm just trying to leave them up before it's time to go. So when it's time to let it go, I'ma leave them with a sound.
It'd be nice if I had an example of that vocal, but I don't.
When you weren't involved, nah. You can't treat it like a hobby for a pot of gold. What?
Well, we'll look at density as well while we're here. They put density in as saying like it's a compressor that works from the bottom. To me, that's an expander, and it seems to be an expander. Again, something they added into Ozone 11, but gave like a really simple thing, like upward compress, the amount you want to lift it up. It's now got a full menu over here in how to, that's like how it's working. We can actually dial everything in. You can't treat it like. If I'm wrong and this isn't expansion, tell me, but as far as I've ever understood it, that's expansion.
Sold and was never told. Never.
Now you're taking the lower part of the signal and pushing it up at those keyframes rather than the higher part of the signal and pulling it down. Expansion to me. I don't know why it's called this, but
yeah,
we've got a threshold. Look.
You can't treat it like a hobby for a pot of gold. What? Many want a copy for the.
So now we're not adding anything, but if it's falling below the threshold, we begin to lift it back up based on the ratio and speed.
Before it's time to go.
Let's be ridiculous with the overall range.
I'ma leave them with a sound just to let them know. Yeah, I was on it when you weren't involved. Nah, you can't treat it like a hobby for a pot of gold. What?
Way too slow, super fast.
Yeah. Because the shit was always sold and was never told. Never. See, nothing's really set in stone. Nope. I'm just trying to leave them up before it's time to go. So when it's time to let it go, I'ma leave them with a sound just to let them know. Yeah.
And you can see what it's doing here. It's just absolutely crushing the vocal, but by bringing the lower parts up.
Copy for the same results. Yeah. Because the shit was all
A combination of that with
nothing's
regular compression could well be useful.
before.
Yeah, you go to any of the old SSL channels, you've got expansion in there as the option for exactly the same purpose. I just don't know why we've got a separate module and called density for it. And especially when this does what you need in 99% of the cases, we could honestly have taken what they did in Ozone 11, the upward compress, bash that in here, switch it on, and just do it both within the single channel. Maybe some people really want these options. I don't see a mega benefit, but it's useful for it to be there.
Yeah, I was on it when you weren't involved. Nah.
More's better than not enough, right? I don't need it on that channel though.
Many want a copy for the same results.
I think that's it in terms of new modules, isn't it? Unmask was there before. Density was there. Clipper's new. Density's new. Yeah, and the phase module, which we covered already. Yeah, that pretty much covers all of the new bits right there. What have we actually done time-wise? I have no idea how long we've been streaming. And it's not even on my heads up. I'll just assume we've been about 30 minutes. I think what I'll do for the rest of this time, potentially, is just work on this track, or we could do something from scratch. If anyone's got any quezies, though, not disparaging it, but if it's not something I'll use, yeah, like, I don't know, just call it what it is. Strange that we've got the density module. It feels very marketing friendly, right? It's useful to have it in there, don't get me wrong. Like legacy SSL channel strips have expansion in there. It's there for a reason. Seldom need to reach for it. I find it more useful in something like the mastering aspect of things, you know, getting that final loudness, but sure, it's there. It's been added. It's another feature. I think it's a bit strange the way they did it. Adding the clipper in was absolutely fantastic option. I love that. The phase thing, as you can see, I used it in this track a fair bit to fix that brass and align the kick and brake loop. But yeah, all in all, relatively solid. Pretty happy with how that is.